The call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy Labor Day, in fact, and welcome back to the Pod at the Palace. I'm your host, Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas, and today's episode is presented by Razorback Apparel. Just go to razorbacks.com and use code HOGSBY20 for 20% off your first purchase today. How's everybody doing? Are you feeling good after a Razorback win in football? I mean, the vibes should be high anyway on a holiday, should they not? Hope y'all are doing all right. I'm doing pretty good. I'll tell you this, though. I know most folks probably don't get too excited about working on Labor Day, but I gotta say, I'm happy to take off the football hat and put the basketball one back on. To tell you the truth, I had the weirdest feeling in my gut all weekend. I was talking to my wife about it earlier today. It's like, on one hand, it was like, gosh, man, can I get off camera? I feel like I've been in front of the microphone nonstop Saturday and Sunday throughout the course of the days there with all of our football coverage, which is a lot of fun. But on the other hand, I know it was just one weekend, just a couple of days, but it feels like ages since I've been able to sit down and talk basketball. We all know that my heart lies on the hardwood, so it feels good. It feels good to be back for sure. Fun show today, a lot to get into. We're going to talk recruiting and visits. Duh. Obviously, we're going to look ahead as well at just, maybe a way too early look ahead at what next year's roster could potentially look like in terms of, this 2026 recruiting class, some retention, all those things. But listen, let's start with our heavy hitter presented by our friends over at HD Roofing and Construction. When those storms hit unexpectedly, like they did the other night in Northwest Arkansas, was it Wednesday night going into Thursday? I think that's what it was. Crazy, absurd amount of rain. My neighborhood went viral for like all the flooding that was going on. And I felt like it thundered nonstop for about 6 hours. Just a constant storm. It was crazy. When that stuff happens, you give yourself some peace of mind with a free inspection from HD Roofing. And listen, when you go with them, there are three things you can count on. It's professionalism. They've got the top quality materials, and they're going to come out and give you expert installation. Give them a call today. Schedule your free inspection. 501-428-0429 is the number. You can check them out at hdarkansas.com or scan that QR code up in the top right-hand corner of your screen there. And, it's it's Caleb Holt, right? I mean, is there any point in us trying to, I don't know, bury the lead or whatever? You had a major visitor coming onto campus, and we got to talk about it. And, he arrived in town on Friday and he left on Sunday. And for all intents and purposes, it sounds to me like he had a pretty eventful 48 hours in Northwest Arkansas. And it sounds to me like he enjoyed himself. And I like that. I like that a lot. There are elements to every visit that, no matter where you're going, what campus you're on, they're going to be the same, right? Like you get to tour the facilities. You'll get to get the presentations about, how do you fit in the system or the program, or you'll get the development plan for this is how we're going to get you to the NBA, the things that you're going to work on and how we're going to, sell you and showcase you as a prospect, all that stuff. Right. And we know that John Calipari, he's got a hard resume to beat when it comes to that. So, they're going to like the rev share and the NIL conversations. Those all take place on these visits, and Arkansas has money. We know that. Sometimes though, what can separate these visits from school to school, it's the extra things, the little things, the cherry on top, the icing on the cake, whatever you want to call it. For example, you always, when you're on a visit, you'll go sit in on some practice. And that's super, super important to get a feel for what that's like. And Caleb Holt's sitting there. He's watching the other freshmen, seeing if the style matches what you're looking for. Okay, what about the guys at my position? How are they utilized in the offense? Usually you're going to have, an assistant coach or a GA or somebody sitting there with you telling you all those things, right, while you're sitting there watching. But how about the flex, though, from Arkansas, just having Anthony Black conveniently pull up to work out with the team while Caleb Holt's there on his visit? Bravo, man. Like, Cal has all these NBA guys, and here's a recent lottery pick from Arkansas. They come here and run with the team. They practice with the team. Yeah, I could see myself reaching my goals here. I love that. And so you've got Caleb Holt, who's, hanging with the team. He's hanging out with John Calipari. He's rubbing elbows with Anthony Black. But we all know who the vibes coordinator is for the Razorback basketball team, right? And then at the football game, every time you saw Caleb Holt, who did you see beside him? Ronnie Brewer Jr. He's such a visit X factor on this staff. And it was very obvious, when Eric Musselman was around, and they utilized Brew, I thought, in a great way. And Cal gets it too. He knows. Ronnie Brewer is the X factor in Arkansas recruiting outside of John Calipari. I mean, he's not the X factor. He is college basketball recruiting. When you go through that staff, and all those guys do good jobs, but Ronnie Brewer, Arkansas, it's huge. Tyler Eulis, very, very big on these visits. There's these guys who are like the unsung heroes that don't get talked about enough. I need to shout both of them out because they both did a hell of a job on this visit. And so then you get Brew and Anthony Black out on the field at the football game to call the Hogs right there in front of Caleb Holt. And it's like, yeah, man, if John Calipari wasn't enough, here's some living proof of how Arkansas can take you where you want to go. And, oh, by the way, this is how this fan base treats you when you come home. They're going to make you feel like family. And speaking of feeling like family, I've got to give a shout out to the student section, the U of A. You guys, if you're listening to this, you understood the assignment. Bravo to golf clap. Well done. Well done, people. If you didn't see Caleb Holt's Instagram story because you were locked into the football game, first of all, shame on you. But I get it. But, he was in selfie mode in the student section with the fans going crazy all around him. Guys had the "We Want Holt" signs all over the place and all that. He had a huge smile on his face. Well done, my friends. Kudos to you. That's the type of stuff that these guys remember. Now, families and agents, coaches, representation, all that. Yeah, they're going to be locked in on the details. Oh, that rev share is going to look like what? NIL is going to come from where? One and done how? Yeah, of course. And of course that means a lot to these players too, but little things like that are what can give you just a sneaky edge. And I think Arkansas did a really, really good job there. And hey, I guess we should thank the Razorback football team as well for figuring it out after the first couple drives there and doing their part in creating what seemed like a pretty solid atmosphere at Razorback Stadium. So I like it. It's good stuff. And by the way, if you haven't seen it yet, we're going to pull them up right here. We've got some of the photos from the photo shoot, things that you love to see. There's Caleb Holt rocking the Razorback red. What do you think about that? Looks pretty good there in number one. I'm not going to lie. Perfect placement of the basketball with the Razorback right there on the front. That's a good job by whoever was taking the photos there. Credit where credit is due. Credit where credit is due. I like it. I love that background. What do you guys think about that? You got the slobber hog. It's just, it's different, man. I guarantee you that kind of stuff right there it's a hit with recruits. There's no doubt in my mind. Let's look at some of these other ones here. How do you guys feel about the boombox? I know I guarantee you a lot of people in the comments are going to be saying, well, I like the idea of the boombox. That's cool. It's a throwback to when I was a kid, whatever. But you're looking there on the speakers and you're thinking, why the hell is the front-facing hog on it? But here's what I'll tell you about this. I get it. You see front-facing hog and you're like, come on, man. But at the same time, you think Caleb Holt cares? Do you think he knows why people are irritated every time they see that thing? Does he know the story behind it? Does he have any idea who Jeff Long is? No, he doesn't. He sees the boombox. He thinks it's cool. But low key, they need to change those stickers up. Come on, man. Little pic with the family there. Big genuine smile. You think she sees him in Razorback red? I think so. I think so. There he is in the whites, leaned back in the chair, chilling. It's pretty good, doesn't it? It always hits a little bit different once you see those guys in the uniform, rocking the threads. I love those visit pics. Which, by the way, when he posted this on his IG, you had multiple staff members throw it alike. Ronnie Brewer Jr. is one of them. Had some of the players like Malik Thomas I saw, and he commented on it. Vibe King Amir Brown. Adu Thero was in on it. JJ Andrews, Baba Oladaton. A lot going on there. So this is interesting. Listen, there's a long way to go. And I'm just being honest with you. Visits mean far less than ever before in this new era of college basketball. But based on the post-visit feedback here so far, Arkansas did really, really well for itself this weekend. And that's exactly what you're looking for going into it. From Holt's side, I'm told that he genuinely loved the visit, and Arkansas as a whole made a strong impression on him. And he was already very much enamored with the idea and the potential of playing for John Calipari. And now he's able to connect that with this experience in Fayetteville with the school, see the players, good FaceTime with other guys on the staff. You had a lottery pick recently who just played at the school, who you could bounce things off of. That's going to keep it real with you. It's good. And then from the Arkansas side, very rarely is anyone like, yeah, the visit sucked, or yeah, it didn't go so great. The only time I recall that happening was Grant Nelson, who was pretty much just all but locked up to Alabama. He came on the visit anyway. And, I think they knew pretty quickly. And so starting to get some of those texts from people in the building that were like, yeah, that was a little awkward. Okay. And to a lesser degree, I remember, was this the same offseason? I think it was. It was Tyler Perry, if you guys remember him. And he's an Arkansas kid. He balled out at North Texas. He hit the portal, and he wound up at Kansas State, I think it was. But anyway, it was crazy because he went live. You guys remember this? Tyler Perry went live on his Instagram, somebody that was with him during his photo shoot. And so you're watching him do all the poses and stuff on his visit on the photo shoot. And you're hearing, some of the assistant coaches, Mutt, like other people talking to him, like conversations we probably weren't supposed to hear. And he was just live the whole time, which was crazy. And I was thinking, wow, he wouldn't do that unless he's coming. And I was about midway through a post over on the Hog Sports message boards, be like, yo, we're on straight up commit watch here. And then I remember getting a note back from somebody on staff that was like, not so fast there. And then they famously signed L. Ellis and moved on like 2 days later. And I think part of it there was they wanted to get a commitment if they were going to get it while he was on the visit. They weren't happy or they weren't ready to do that. And so Arkansas moved on. But at any rate, back to this particular visit, just some stories that came to my mind there. Arkansas feels like they killed it this weekend with this visit. In fact, those exact words were sent to me on Sunday morning by somebody on the staff. So they had a plan, boxes they wanted to make sure that they checked, and they knocked it out of the park. That's great. Arkansas feels really good about where it stands here with Caleb Holt post-visit. Awesome. The caveat, though, being at the end of the day, the price still has to be right on both ends, and it's still very much subject to change moving forward. Why? Because you also have to keep in mind that he's got visits still planned here. And you got to keep that momentum even after that post-visit high wears off, especially when he visits Kentucky this weekend, and he's got trips coming up to both the contenders, the top contenders in Alabama and Auburn. They've got the same checklist, right? So Arkansas nailed it. But these other schools haven't rolled out their own red carpet or put their own full court press on just yet. And it's going to be heated competition. But Arkansas isn't going to just sit around and wait for him to make up his mind, which brings me back to what we talked about at the end of last week. The recruiting period, the recruiting quiet period ends at midnight on Tuesday, which means on Wednesday morning, coaches can get out on the road and go visit recruits in person. And if it was me setting that schedule, John Calipari would be at Caleb Holt's front door with a coffee from Dunkin' at sunrise on Wednesday. And I'd have staff at a practice or a workout on Thursday. And then I have John Calipari right there waiting for him at the airport when he lands back home after visiting Lexington this weekend. So long ways to go. See what comes from these other visits. See how we feel in several days here after, again, that post-visit high. It's real, man. You're on top of the world and you're thinking, oh yeah, the Hogs got this in the bag, until you remember, okay, but he's getting ready to go have a similar experience at all these other schools, and you got to outlast him. That's the thing about, do you want first visit or do you want last visit? And Arkansas left a hell of a strong impression. You got to keep that momentum up. Do not count out the pigs in this pursuit. Going to be a lot of fun to watch how this one plays out for sure. Hey, today's episode of the Pod the Palace is presented by our friends at Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas. The holiday season, it's not just around the corner anymore. It's here. I mean, we flipped the calendar over to September at this point. That means you are within one standard deviation, being a month away from really being in the thick of it. That's Halloween. For those of you who are wondering, a lot of you like the idea of getting in the holiday spirit, and man, you'd love the idea of having your house decked out and everything like that, but you don't have the time or the resources to do it yourself. Well, Walter Christmas Lighting has you covered. If you're in Northwest Arkansas or the River Valley, you got to hit them up. They'll come out. They provide all the materials, any color and any pattern that you can come up with. They will install the lights for you personally. They give you free maintenance throughout the holidays. And then when it's all said and done in January, they come down and take it all down for you. It's completely hassle-free. Also, if you sign up for Halloween lights, you will get your Christmas lights for 50% off. That is a sick little deal right there. Text our guy Brett for a free estimate at 479-459-1380 today. You can also check out their website at walterchristmaslighting.com or like them on Facebook by scanning the QR code on your screen. It's Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas, your local holiday lighting experts. All right, Razorback fans, before we get back to it, let's talk insurance for a second, shall we? Nobody wants to deal with the hassle of shopping around. It's exactly that. It's a hassle. And that's why I recommend and use OZK Insurance. They're based right here in Arkansas, and they shop multiple carriers to find the best coverage and price for you, whether it's home, auto, business, you name it, they've got you covered. Whether it's Saturdays at Razorback Stadium or everyday life, you want protection that you can count on. With over 600 5-star Google reviews, OZK Insurance gives you exactly that. You can count on them. Get a free online quote at ozkinsurance.com or call 479-715-4200. OZK Insurance, protection made simple. All right. Folks, listen, we are at DEFCON 1 on baby watch alert over here at my house. Like, legitimately, it could be at any time. I think. I've never done this before, so I'm not entirely sure, but it just feels like it's a matter of moments, you know? Like, we're down to days or hours and not weeks or months anymore. It's crazy how quickly this has happened. If you wake up one morning here soon and there isn't a Pod at the Palace episode in your feed, I am not dead. I did not quit. I did not get fired. I'm in the baby bunker. Okay. I feel like we're to the point where I need to put that out there. There will be a brief hiatus at some point here. It's coming soon. I just don't know exactly when, but I can promise you whenever it happens that I will be back at it with the Pod at the Palace before I do any of this other nonsense. I will talk basketball before I talk Arkansas football on Inside Arkansas Live or football post game or whatever. The priorities don't change except for, being a dad, everything like that. I'm freaking out a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Like, I mean, where did the time go? Are we ready? What do I do with this thing? Will he like me? I'm guessing that's, these are all just like normal things to feel or whatever. But, I've got to admit, and I don't mind doing so because we've got our little community here at Inside Arkansas and on the Pod the Palace. It's kind of transformed into somewhat of an extended dysfunctional family, all of you people. But the last week or so, it's been challenging to be able to just lock in on camera and, for what amounts to anywhere between 2 to 5 hours or more a day. And this is going to tie into basketball here in a second. I promise there's a method to my madness today, even if I'm rambling a little bit, but it really hit me here Sunday afternoon to see, and I'm sure a lot of you saw it, but that Coach Cal's wife put on socials, about having to put down their dog, Palmer. And it makes me sad. And for a lot of folks, pets, they really are part of the family, and as much love and joy as they provide, it's just absolutely brutal when it's time to say goodbye. So first of all, sending all the good vibes possible to Coach Calipari and his wife and their home and their family there. It's sad and it's not easy. And, my wife went to church Sunday morning in town and, Coach Cal was there. He is a lot of the times. And it's like the poor guy knew it was coming later in the day. So feel for him. Well wishes, good vibes, all those things. And it hit home, like we've been going through a pretty wild swing of emotions for a similar situation over here, like the unbelievable joy and excitement that comes with it's like being on the brink of bringing a new addition into the world with our baby boy. And then also, if I'm being honest, some painful grief, with some of the things that we've had to learn and digest on some recent trips to the vet with our old pup Slim Jim, who, he's as ingrained in our lives and family as a dog possibly could be. It's man's best friend, right? My sidekick for 14 years. But like that push and pull of emotions between that chapter that we've been so blessed to be able to experience, nearing an end here, and this unbelievable new one getting ready to begin, it leaves you pretty preoccupied in the mind. Well, when I think about all this, I can't help but to relate it to basketball. Okay, because ball is what I know. It's who I am. It's always been the escape. It's always been the release. It's always been the passion. And so it's analogy time here, if you'll humor me, as we take a look ahead to Arkansas's potential roster a year from now. Because, the new baby coming into the world, it kind of reminds me of these targets that Arkansas has in the 2026 class. He may or may not be as tall when he appears on this earth. I don't know. The jury's still out. But, boy, the possibilities are endless, aren't they? Like, how can you not be excited about something new? A new adventure, something different to call your own, a new member to the Razorback family filled with all the hopes and dreams that come along with it, just like life, right? Because this fandom stuff means something to us. And at the same time, isn't there just this level of being terrified at the unknown involved? Statement could be true for a baby. It could be true for some of these incoming freshmen. You just don't really know. Is he a fussy baby or is he going to sleep through the night? Will JJ Andrews hit the ground running or is he going to have those growing pains? How long until we start seeing that personality start to shine and see him coming into his own? Could be talking about either there. A freshman's just like a baby. How quickly will you learn what makes him tick so you can put him in position to thrive and reach his potential? Isn't it the goal of fatherhood? Isn't it the goal of Coach Cal when he brings in these freshmen? You know what I'm saying? Will Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas, ascend and leave us after a year? Or will they need more seasoning? Is my son going to stay attached to my hip as a Razorback lover and a sports enthusiast, or is he going to enter the transfer portal to his mom and become a Hallmark movie stan? I don't know. You just don't know until you know. So the excitement of what's to come blended with the mystery of the unknown, it's what makes fatherhood the most terrifyingly precious gift of life. It's also what makes covering recruiting so stressfully fun. Like as wound up as we are after this Caleb Holt visit, and you're like, damn, man, he couldn't have just committed while he was here. What's going on? Well, I would imagine they're going to have another visitor this weekend, Arkansas. And then we know they've got several in a row right after that. And we get to do the same song and dance with Big Arafan and Jordan Smith Jr. and everybody else over the course of the next several weeks, just like we did with Caleb Holt this past weekend. And some of them are going to break our hearts. Some of them are going to call the hogs and join the family. Hell, I guess at least with a baby, you have 9 months of preparation and work that goes into it, but at least the little fella's coming home with you for sure. You know what I mean? Like in recruiting, these pursuits last years sometimes, and a lot of these guys you don't even get. You got to go see them play somewhere else. You got to play against them. But who will Arkansas get out of this 2026 class? I mean, I like their chances a lot with Abdou Toure. I feel like if they prioritize and if they show him that he's a priority, I think they can get him. Now, he just went on a visit to Providence, and they are prioritizing him. And they did roll out the red carpet for him, just like you did for Caleb Holt this past weekend. So eyes on when he gets that visit officially announced and what that looks like. I like Arkansas's chances a hell of a lot more than I did a week ago with Caleb Holt. I'll tell you that right now. But I really do my best to try not to get too caught up in that immediate, all the great feedback from the visit. And it hasn't even been able to set for 24 hours yet, especially knowing that he's going to be at Kentucky this weekend. He's got those other visits there. But can Arkansas get him? Absolutely. I like where they're at. I think Arkansas is a sneaky contender here for Brandon McCoy. So keep a close eye on him. And when that visit happens, I'm very intrigued, guys, about the potential with Baba Oladiton. A lot of competition there, but there are reasons to be optimistic that Arkansas is going to be right in the thick of it. They are in the thick of it, but as he announces some other visits and everything, I think that's going to continue. And with all the other guys that you already know, like you have somebody else in the pole position that you need to pass, like Houston with Arafan and Duke with Jordan Smith Jr. and Louisville with Tay Kenny. Well, Arkansas has done it before. In fact, John Calipari has made a career out of doing this exact same thing. Arkansas has done it 3 times recently with Malik Thomas in UConn, with Darius Acuff in Kansas. And really, if you think back just not too far ago, with J.J. Andrews in Missouri, because they were damn sure that they were going to get him. There were crystal ball predictions for Missouri, and then he called the Hogs and stayed home. So John Calipari is going to get his guys, but it feels like more of a mystery as to who it will wind up being than most years. I will admit that. We'll see. It kind of adds to the intrigue about what next year will look like by the way of new faces and how they'll need to attack the portal. But before you can think about the portal, then there's retention, which it's kind of like old Slim Jim at my house, or like Palmer was over at Coach Cal's. Isn't there something to be said for just knowing exactly what you're going to get day in and day out? That's what a dog brings to the table, man. Consistency, loyalty, reliability, never absent. They understand your routines. They have their own. The bond is built. It's unbreakable. It's ingrained. It's it's part of the fabric of your household or your team. Sometimes it can be taken for granted. Sometimes the value is underappreciated. Oh, it's just a dog, Oh, we saw that guy last year. He is what he is. Bring on the new. But at the end of the day, it's kind of the building block of who you are and what you want to be. And it's true of the Slim Man, and it's true of the returning Razorbacks on this season's roster. I'm pretty much done with the analogies now, by the way. Thank you. But you know what Arkansas didn't have this time a year ago? A culture in place, a foundation to build from, a precedent set, an identity within the program. Well, they have all those things going into this year, which is why I think the floor is raised for this team compared to a year ago. And it's hard not to feel a level of comfort, right? With DJ Wagner back as a leader of this team. But are we too quick to rule out that, DJ Wagner, he might just be aging like a fine wine? Because literally every indication suggests that he's been playing his best basketball all summer. And theoretically, this should be as comfortable and confident as he's ever been. He's not transferring schools. He's not dealing with that nagging ankle injury. He understands his place and his role as a leader on the team. 2 years in the SEC in this league. I'd probably be playing some pretty good basketball too if I was in his shoes. Isn't there a level of comfort that comes with Trevin Brazile being back as a 4th-year Razorback? How rare is that? We thought Devo was going to be the last one. No, well, maybe it's Trevin. But there's also this quiet optimism, right? That he's matured and he's ready to be the best version of himself. Finally, I know, I get it. And then, having Carter and Billy back after growing up during March Madness, which, by the way, had someone tell me who played with those guys recently that both of them are a lot better than they were last year and that Billy still can't shoot. So that's what was shared to me. So we shall see about all that. But yeah, if people talk about that freshman to sophomore leap being the biggest one that you make as a player, that's the case with both of those guys who were so impactful anyway for Arkansas as youngsters last year. But this retention, it's going to pay huge dividends this year. And it's why John Calipari continuing to prioritize retention moving forward. To me, that's just as important as any 5-star that he might add on the recruiting trail when it comes to his long-term success here at Arkansas. So what could that look like this time of year from now? Well, the question I think that we have to ask here is, can Arkansas return 2 to 3 of Carter Knox, Billy Richmond, DJ Wagner, Darius Acuff, Malik Thomas, and Malik Ewan? Because Trevin and Nick Pringle are the 2 guys running out of eligibility here. Can you get 2 to 3 of those other guys back? Carter, it feels unlikely, but you never know. We laid out a case actually as to why that might be a thing. If he's a guy who's kind of in that Adu Thero late first, early second range this time of year from now, and you look ahead to the draft the next year, which is expected to be historically weak, and you think, damn, I could play another year, be the exact same player, and be a much higher draft pick, and I could get paid to come back. It's not crazy. I don't think he thinks that way, but you know, can you imagine a year 3 Billy Richmond or a year 4 DJ Wagner? Like, both of those guys could have great years, but they also kind of have a similar flaw in a way, holding them back from being bona fide NBA prospects, don't they? You know, it's like, hey, if you shoot it well this year, you're probably going to get some draft buzz, and Arkansas is probably going to win a ton of games. If you don't, oh, how does that impact this season? But maybe you'll come back, right? Which do you prefer? And then with the freshmen, for what it's worth, I'm told that Darius Acuff is ahead of Malik Thomas right now. And that's not to say the Leak is struggling. That's not the case by any means, actually. But a non-staff member observer of Leak a lot here recently told me he kind of sees this in a way like as Boogie and Carter last year, meaning that Boogie was very clearly ready to roll right out of the gates. And he was a no-brainer first-round pick up until he got hurt, of course. Now, I know he struggled the first few games there in SEC play. Half of those he played injured, and then he was out, and that bottomed things out for him. But coming into the year, he was certainly further along and more ready to go. Now, Carter may have the higher ceiling, but he also needed more time to settle in and adjust before growing those peacock wings and taking flight, right? Now, that being said, the same guy told me that he believes Malik is ahead right now of where Carter was this time a year ago. If I said that the right way. Yes, I did. Okay. So it sounds like a good problem to have to me. As far as either of them coming back, returning for a sophomore season, I think it's fair to say that Leak is more likely than Acuff, with the very clear and obvious disclaimer: we haven't played a game yet. Right? So we'll probably do this again over Christmas break or whatever when we have some time, but it's fun to take that early look. And then with Malik Ewan, listen, Malik Ewan is going to be one of the top offensive bigs in the country. Yes, I said the country. There is no doubt in my mind that's going to be in the case after watching him, after everything that I've heard about him. I'm comfortable with that. It all comes down to buying all the way in with that defensive motor and staying consistent and level-headed with him. And the time will tell if that happens. If I had to say who I felt like would be most likely to return from that bunch, I'd probably start with DJ and Billy, and then Ewan, then Leak, with Knox and Acuff being the most likely to be in the NBA, this time of year from now. And those aren't the only guys that you hope to retain. Those are just the guys who are probably going to be in your core contributors this year who could return, who would be eligible to return. And so Arkansas had that last season, and they brought 4 back from that group. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that again this year, but can you get at least 2 or 3? Because I think you're going to have more draft picks this year than you did last year, which was 1, right? Now, but I do think it's very important to see enough flashes, though, from Isaiah Sealy and Paolo Samito to where you feel real comfortable and confident including them in that core group of pieces a year from now. Because you didn't have guys like this last year. You just had your 9 and then massive drop-off roster fillers at the end. And you don't have that this year. You've got your 8, if you will, and then you have a couple guys who might not be quite as far along yet, but you're really, really excited about their future. So you need to make sure that you still are this time of year from now, right? Like I'm telling you right now, you're going to see what you need to see from Isaiah Sealy to feel real good about what that's going to look like next year. And you guys also know how bullish I am on Paolo, and I continue to be told that he's very much adjusting his way through, and through the learning curve and everything. But that his talent, his potential, it's undeniable. Out there in the practice facility. So, how quickly does it all come together? How quickly does the game slow down for him? Also, and Elmer, he's got a lot to work on, right? More of a long-term project there. They absolutely have to get him more athletic, more explosive, more twitchy, just so he can hold up in the SEC. But I will say that some of the feedback I got on him is that he's just freakishly strong. And he's, he's probably not as good or skilled or as far along as the other bigs, but he's given some of those guys hell at times in practice already, especially in like drills or half court settings, because you literally can't move him. He's that big, that strong. Now, open floor, different story. And we know how the SEC is. So you got to figure all that out there. But my point is, get 2 to 3 back from that core rotation of guys this year. Develop Sealy and Samito, see how far along Elmer is, and grab a couple more of these freshmen. And all of a sudden, Arkansas could very easily find itself in a position again in the spring where they only need to add a couple pieces out of the portal. You might have guys transfer, like you did with Big Z or Boogie or whatever. We'll see what that looks like. But ideally, they wouldn't want to have to go get 4 or 5 guys out of the transfer portal. 2 to 3 is kind of what they want. And, I definitely think they're going to add a big man out of the portal no matter what. Like the 2 guys that you're losing, Trevin and Nick, for sure are front court pieces. So now if you get Big Arafan, then if you bring Malik Ewan back also, maybe that changes the equation a little bit, depending on how far along a guy like Elmer might be. But I think that they're probably going to wind up bringing in a big man and probably a 4-man as well, unless Paolo really pops and looks like okay, we're ready to plug and play this dude as a starter. But I would still think that they would look at it and say, yeah, we need to get an insurance policy. So to me, you're probably going to go get a 4-man. Do you try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone with like a versatile 4-5 there? Or do you bring in, do you have to look at it at the end of the year and say, okay, we need a starting 4 with Paolo taking on an increased role, backing him up, or we are ready to hand the keys to Paolo, but we're also going to cover our own rear ends by going out and getting a guy with some experience who will be able to accept the role. And then the backcourt, probably very much TBD in terms of what these other guys do and who comes back, right? So anyway, a little bit longer of an episode today, but it's been a couple days. Like I said, I was excited to talk to you guys. It's been a minute, man. So going to get out of here for now, though, and sincerely really do appreciate the support and everybody tuning in, rocking with us. Continue to do so. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Some people watch this show every day and they just haven't clicked subscribe yet. Throw me a bone. It's free. Doesn't do anything for you. Doesn't change anything for you, but it helps me. I'd certainly appreciate it. And find us where you find your podcast. If you listen in audio format, whether it's Apple or Spotify, Amazon, wherever the Pot the Palace can be found there. And we can be found here, I think, tomorrow morning. And looking forward to it. You guys have a good rest of your day. It's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas on the Pot the Palace. And we'll catch you next time.